Okay, this is weird. I know it's really weird. This is the first time I'm doing this, so I'm sure it's going to be a little off. But this is totally unscripted, just, going off the dome because I'm so excited and I don't want to like spend time writing a script or getting like it down. I just want to talk about it. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. The original Bendy and the Ink Machine, one of my favorite games of all time. Like unquestionably, it was. I don't know. It's a game that just holds a very special place in my heart because of when I first like found it. It was when did the first? I'll look it up real quick. So first chapter was February 10th, 2017. So it first came out in 2017. So chapter one, 2017 on Game Jolt, which was where I first played it, is the first like PC game that I ever played because that was back like I had just gotten this like shitty little laptop that's not meant for gaming at all, and I just couldn't install Steam or anything, and I just was trying to find like something to play, and I saw a whole bunch of people online talking about this little like short indie barely demo game. So, being a kid who thinks it's cool to just like play horror games because I'm edgy and dark, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to try this out. And I loved it. I loved the style of it. That first chapter was so dumb. Like, the, the world, like, I feel like the actual studio itself was really well designed, but like that old Boris and Bendy model were so bad, but they got better. And chapter two was probably the one that like really solidified it in my mind because that was I moved up, got an actual computer. Uh, you know, I didn't get it to play that game, but it was something that was already on my radar. Like as soon as I got a computer, the first thing I did was download TF2 of all things, and then the first thing I ever actually bought was Chapter Two of Bendy and the Ink Machine. So it's the first. I think I can even find it on there. It's like the first game that I ever paid for on Steam, and it holds such a special place in my heart. Every single chapter as they all released, I loved like the system that they had, where you release a chapter, and then the community has a whole while to like simmer on it and play it, and then sometimes well, like with chapter three when that came out, it wasn't very good, so they actually went back and they fixed it before releasing the next chapter. So like I loved the game. I love the style of it. I loved the gameplay. I know it seems silly, but like it was just so nice to have something where you just like it's like a walking simulator basically, like a lot of horror games. Um Especially the first chapter. It's like, you walk around. There are like collection. It's like a fetch quest kind of game, which I think worked really well because like it just gave you an excuse to explore this really, I don't want to use beautiful because that doesn't really feel like the right term. It's not like visually stunning or anything. Like it's not beautiful. It is though. It's really weird. It's very stylized, and I love the style. I love the way that game looks. So all of this being used just to preface the fact that I am so freaking excited for Bendy and the Dark Revival. The final chapter of Bendy and the Ink Machine came out in 2018, and they announced the sequel to it, Dark Revival, in the same year. Now that's almost well, it's 5 years since the original came out, and then or since chapter one came out, and then 4 years since like the game was announced. And even then, it looked so much better. But that was a pre-game like that was a very early trailer, and then it was like nothing. I always thought it was really stupid. It was funny, but it's so stupid. They did like a whole merchandising thing and like put out the toys and stuff for the game before they were even close to done. Like that stuff all came out within a year of the announcement, and then the game just never came out to a point where I thought it was canceled. I remember a while ago they announced that like the reason it was taking so long was because they were getting rid of the chapters thing and just making it all one game that's going to come out at once. But I don't know. I was pissed at that originally, so I like kind of stopped following it for a while. Which is, I mean, I guess that's something I can bring up separately. I was actually have a whole video drafted that I was going to upload. Well, I didn't finish. I finished the script that I was going to make into a video about why I prefer if the game was in chapters and why I think just in general I think that like segmented games like that are really interesting. But now that this game is actually finally coming out, I think my opinion might have changed because then I was like, it was annoying to me that it was taking so long for one, and it was annoying to me that it kind of removed some of the community aspect of it because that was one of my favorite parts of the original game was the way that like a chapter would come out and then you'd have all this sudden rush as everybody played it and like made songs about it and theories about it and all this other crazy stuff, art, everything. And then, you'd only have to wait a few months and the next segment of it would come out and then the exact same process. And there was like, all those cool like design contests where they would actually put people's posters in the game and different things like that. I do realize now, especially since I just replayed the whole original game, that it does feel very segmented. Like you could tell, especially comparing like the first chapter to the final one, how it's like it's not really a solid through line. It's like obviously it's the same story, but it does like like the first game is totally there's not even weapons in it. Like it's totally non-complex. You're just walking around, pick some stuff up, and then by the final game they're trying to introduce all this other stuff, these puzzles, and there's like the seeing tool and different weapons and different like activities you can do, and then like the sneaking and hiding and throwing cans and like there's all this other stuff, and it feels rushed. It feels weird. I still love that game to death. But I think that, now that they've given themselves time and had the funding, because that was another part of it, was that when the original game was coming out, they weren't really a company yet. So like the first chapter was just like a test. Like that's all it was. And then when that kind of did well, they were like, well, let's try and make something out of this. But it wasn't a fully realized idea yet. And so, you can't put your whole soul into something that might not even work out. So I like that now that game is finished and they know what worked with it and what didn't, and they have all that stuff, they're able to use it and spend 4 years to just solely work on making this game like as good, like as peak as they want it to be. Yeah, so they went dark on it for a long time, right? Like just nothing. They said, we're releasing it all at once at some point. No release date, not even like a suggestion, and then just nothing. We got no trailers, we got no insight. There was like screenshots and stuff posted every once in a while, or like an update to their store page, but other than that, there was like no info on the game. And then once they released that first chapter of that other game they were making with like what was that game called? It was like the little puppets. It wasn't. I didn't personally like it, and I guess they ended up canceling it because after that first chapter, like they haven't brought that back either. But yeah, so after that game kind of flopped, and they just didn't bother making the other chapters, I really thought they'd given up. Like I thought that we're just not gonna get the sequel to this game. It's never coming out. But now, 2 weeks. It's coming out in 2 weeks. Oh, that's such a huge part of why I'm excited. Like. So the way I had to get mentally prepared for this was yesterday. The Meatly, who is like one of the lead head inventor and developers of this game, every year he posts a video of like what his Halloween costume is. It's goofy, it's silly, it happens every year. And so when I saw it and it was only like under a minute, I was like, oh, that's pretty exciting. And so I watched the little thing and he pops up and then he goes away and then it's just real quick. He says like, oh, by the way, the trailer for Dark Revival is being revealed tomorrow. Bye. And then just leaves. And it just ended there. And that was yesterday I saw that. I was so excited. Even then, before we got anything, I was so excited. But I was trying to like manage my expectations. I was trying to like keep it low because I knew, I knew that if I got my hopes up too high, then it would disappoint me. So I tried to keep them low. I was like, we'll probably get a little trailer, probably more like that teaser they originally revealed and not like a full reveal of the game. I didn't expect to even see any gameplay of it, which I don't. Well, I think we did actually get in the trailer, but like I was like very low expectations, and I did figure that we would get a release date, but at best, I thought it wouldn't be for another, 3 months. Like I was thinking we would have to wait half a year even before this game came out. But no, they just cut right to it, which I think is a good sign. I know not everyone may agree with that, but saying 2 weeks to me is like so soon that it makes it feel like they're either done, like they are done right now, or they're very close to done, like final touches levels of done, where they're sure they're good. Because there's always a chance for delays. There were delays with the chapters when they were doing the original, like chapter 3 did get delayed. So I still expect a delay because 2 weeks is just so soon, and I'm sure because something always goes wrong with like on the Steam side of it, especially since this is releasing on Steam 2 weeks from now. We're gonna have to wait longer for the PlayStation Xbox versions, which means I'm gonna have to wait longer because I don't use a PC, which is disappointing, but that's whatever. I just still so excited for it, even if it's just getting to watch other people play it and just know what happens. Like I'm very glad that it's coming so soon, and I don't have to sit around and wait for months waiting for this because I've already waited 4 years. I don't think I could have made it another another couple of months. 2 weeks. 2 weeks is right around the corner. I remember, and even when I saw it's like November 14th, I think, something like that. I saw like November 14th, and I was like trying to do the math in my head. I was like, well, it was just October. So is that after December or before? Because I'm just stupid, apparently. And I was like, oh, wait, that's literally like, that's right here. Like, we're basically there already. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm sure it's going to be great. I'm not sure. I'm very hopeful it's going to be great. So, all right, that's before stuff out of the way. So now I'm going to actually like go through this trailer and just talk about the points that I want to talk about because I'm so excited. All right. So, right off the bat, really weird seeing like a human character like as just like an introduction to the game. I know that obviously the ending of the original game had like the real life Joey Drew, which even then was like really weird because he just felt so out of place. But I got that was the point. So it's weird to like start off with this like just real person who, this is a weird side tangent, but looks a lot like Elizabeth from BioShock Infinite. I don't know if that's just me or if I'm crazy, but like that's just who. As soon as I saw her, I was like, oh, that's just that's just Elizabeth. Total side note. Um, I also gotta say that this game looks so good. I mean, obviously these are, like what they're showing, so it's probably like very high end PCs all running at like the highest graphical fidelity and things like that. But it looks so good. It looks so much better than the old game. I hope that it runs well on everything, and I know like that's probably why the versions for Xbox and PlayStation are delayed, is because it's probably gonna be like a pain in the ass to like scale this to them. But it looks so good. I really like that we get a good look. Like we're seeing these places, and there's this guy who's clearly like not inked, like it's not in the ink world yet, which I guess is a weird way to describe it. I don't fully understand the lore of the like Bendy and the ink machine thing because especially in the original game, like I didn't feel like it was that well explained. Like it's kind of explained, and it's like, but it's a lot of like hinting and like allusions to different things, but it's never like explained how any of it like became the ink. And even if like, is the studio real? like, is that just like a design thing, or is there like a real world and then this studio that we play through is like ink covered and that's why it looks all weird and cartoony? Like, it's just really confusing. But I like that this shows us like real environments, which gives me hope that we might, like, there might be a difference. Like, we might get to go through the studio before it becomes like the inky, gross thing basically that we play as in the original game. I did a little bit of research because I couldn't remember if this game was supposed to be a sequel or a prequel. So I looked it up online, and I don't know how I missed this, but apparently the developers said that it's neither. It's just like somewhere in between somehow. It's like both a sequel and a prequel, which I think is interesting. I'll talk about it a little bit more later. I think that's an interesting concept depending on how they go with it. But I think it's cool that like we'll be able to see the studio before it becomes like the inky black abyss, for lack of any other term. Next thing right off is there's this shot of like, I think it's just a searcher who's been like impaled onto a wall and demon follower has been written under him, which for one is just really cool and really dark, and I like that. I love when like these games have these like just really brutally dark scenes in them. I don't know why, but it's just something that I think is really interesting. And I like the demon follower thing because one of the things that bothered me about the original game was that like the characters in it aren't really fully explored, if you know what I mean. Like, so there's Sammy who appeared in chapter 2. And he is like this worshiper of the ink demon of Bendy, but like it's not really explained why. Like, he just kind of is. He just kind of like worships him, and then Bendy kills him right away, which implies that like he's never actually interacted with him before, because clearly Bendy had no problem with just frickin' offing him. And also, like, it seems like the searcher guys who are all hanging out are afraid. The searchers and the lost ones, I think is what they're called, are also like afraid of the ink demon. But then in chapter 5, it says that like Sammy is keeping them at bay, and the only reason they don't attack you is because Sammy's there. But like, so does that mean they follow Sammy and Sammy follows Bendy? So does that mean they also follow Bendy? And it's like, it's just super confusing. It's not really explained. But this shows me that like maybe they're trying to divide them into factions. Maybe there's going to be more lore in this of like the clear distinction between what is like a follower of Bendy and what isn't. You know, all the different like maybe areas in the middle, or maybe they're all just crazy, which is probably likely. Another thing I'd like to bring up about this, and also those shots from earlier with the hallway, is this game, from what we've seen of this trailer, gives me very much of a BioShock vibe, which is probably not that weird of a comparison to make. I love. I mean, made a whole video about BioShock Infinite, and that one probably is my favorite, but I still adore the first 2 BioShock games as well. And a large reason for that is because I really love games that let you explore a world that's already been destroyed. So, like BioShock, the revolution has already happened. Everything's gone to shit, and you just have to like walk through what remains of it, and you see how everybody's been screwed over. Life is awful, and it's a whole bunch of like visual storytelling to explain what happened. Like, there are the audio logs in BioShock that explain parts of it and fill in the gaps. But like, there are a lot of things that you won't get if you don't look at the environment and see all the different ways that this world's been corrupted and destroyed. And this game looks like that. Like, it's giving me such a strong vibe of that I'm so excited to explore. Because like I just said, that's one of the reasons that's one of my favorite games of all time. And if this game goes more into that, unlike the other Bendy game, which didn't, like, you know, they tried with things like Bendy Land, but it was very ham-fisted, and I feel like it didn't flow very well, especially in the earlier chapters. Like, it doesn't make any sense why there's just this giant toy store underneath every other level, and just here and still operating for some reason. Like all that stuff was really weird to me. But this looks a lot more like they're gonna like work hard on more exploring like the whole world and what happened to it and how it got to this point. We do get to see Heavenly Toys again, and it looks very different, which I'm not sure. Now that I'm looking at this, I realize that like that main structure is the same at the center and with the staircases leading up, but the banners with all the characters weren't there before, and there's also like this sign with the Heavenly Toys and gift shop thing on the right, which was never there before. I think there's just like a couch there in the current game. So I wonder if this is like a different area in the workshop, like it's just a different entrance that looks the same, or if they're just going to be retconning it and be like, yeah, they had less resources for the old game, so obviously they're going to make the new one look a lot better, and we should just ignore it. But either way, if it's a new entrance or if it's just them, like just making it look a lot better, which I don't entirely mind. But either way, I really like that we're going to be going back to the same spots, like the same locations as the original game, because I think it'll just be cool to explore it from a different angle. I love when games do that. I love when sequels or prequels or whatever have you go through the same locations as the original game, and you can just see them in a new light or see a new angle to them. It's just one of my favorite, like, I don't know, tropes with sequels. Just like something that happens a lot of times in stories. Like, I love that. Okay, next part of the story is the signs that we see, which say relax. The man who killed the ink demon, or has just killed the demon, Wilson knows your purpose. These are really interesting, along with the audio that's going on while this is playing, which I guess I'll just play here real quick.
Attention, children of the machine. For 211 days, you've lived without the ink demon haunting your steps. I banished him away. In return, I ask just a little favor. There is a stranger. Bring her to me.
He talks about destroying the ink demon and getting rid of it. This is interesting to me because there's two places where this could go. If we're looking at the timeline of the original game, Joey invites Henry to the studio. He shows up. A whole bunch of shit goes down, and then it ends with him like destroying the ink demon by playing that end reel tape. What I think is interesting that I always forget is that actually the machine hasn't been activated until Henry shows up at the studio. So does that mean that the ink demon doesn't exist at this point, or like isn't able to come out? Because this guy, Wilson, in that audio we just listened to, he says that, I got rid of him, but I can bring him back. So does that place this before the original game, and this guy like unplugged the machine basically? But then how does everything else exist still? Because you would think that, if Bendy came from the machine, then so does everybody else. But these guys are all still here. I thought it was interesting. And I also think it's interesting that these posters exist at all, because that, again, like leads credence to this idea of like the different factions. Because these are clearly not, in the original game, you see posters everywhere, but they're like 4 films, 4 things that would have existed before this like ink takeover of the studio. But these are clearly printed after that. It clearly means that there are groups that are printing these posters that are trying to get out to the like denizens of the studio and convince them to remain calm, join Wilson's purpose, I guess. I just think that's really interesting. Short one, really like how the Butcher Gang looks. I mean, all 3 of them, but like we see in this one shot, like, oh my gosh, they look so good. And also this big brute ink guy, who I don't know if he's like just a new enemy type and you'll see him all over the place, or if he's like a special guy like the projectionist, where it's like he's like a mini boss fight almost, or you just have to run from him. But he looks freaking sweet. And I love the idea that there's going to be more variety, because another thing I forgot replaying the old game is like there are the Searchers in Chapter 2, there's the Butcher Gang in Chapter 3, and then the lost ones who are in chapter 4 but don't become enemies until chapter 5. But they all behave exactly the same way, and they're just not that interesting to fight. So I'm hoping that this game has a lot like deeper combat mechanics, which I think we'll see in a moment. I think we definitely get, because as far as the first game's concerned, it's literally, you hit them. Some weapons did more damage than others, but like it wasn't by much. But you can take one swing and then move back, and then you take one swing and move back, and that was all you could do. So I'm excited to see what new like game mechanics that this game has. Other real quick is that I really like it looks in this shot like our character is like hiding in one of those like little angel save stations, but yet the Butcher Gang member is actually trying to grab her. I always thought it was weird in the last game that you could be like Bendy could be right behind you, but as soon as you get in the little box, he doesn't care. None of the enemies do. So I love the idea that they're going to be expanding that more. So like, is there a reason that he can't get in, or is it going to change and it's going to be like you actually have to hide from them when they can't see you, and if they can see you, they'll be able to open it and get you, or is there some like protective aura on it that stops them from getting you entirely? I think that's super exciting. So this is another part I was talking about earlier with like I think the combat's going to be enhanced. It looks like she's putting her like wrench tool onto a crafting table or like an enhancement or table or something. So I wonder if instead of what we did with the past game where like you just picked up an item and you got to use it a weapon, but like you could lose it like randomly, or they can break, or like it's like more they're more story progression items than they were like actual weapons. Like, the axe, you get like 3 different axes in the game, and between chapters you always lose them, and if like they'll just break randomly for story reasons so that you're forced to do stealth sections. Like there's all these different things. But this makes it look like you'll actually be able to keep your weapon and maybe even upgrade it, and like I'm just super excited for that. I'm excited for like real combat mechanics being added to this game. We also get to see this inky guy who has a little bit of a unique design, who looks awesome as always. But I love, well, he's talking to you. He says thank you for your help, which I wonder if this will be like a part of the main quest, like if this guy's really important, or if maybe they're adding like side quests, like not like full on like open world like side quests, but if it's like a bigger map between sections, and like you can maybe meet someone in one area who tells you to grab an item for him, and if you do, like different paths will open up, like little things like that, or where they'll give you upgrade things or something just to build out the world. I love when like more linear games add little like side bits so that it's not something you have to do, but if you want to get better items or if you just want to like get more story information, you can help them out. I think that's super exciting. We get the return of Allison. Well, actually, we get the return of both versions of Alice Angel, which is part of the weird thing to do with like, is this a prequel or sequel? In that Alice, the evil Alice, died at the end of chapter 4 in the original game. Now, obviously, like we see that like people can be reborn from the ink all the time, so it doesn't really matter that she died, I don't think. So this could be just that she revived, or it could be that this takes place before that, or, and this is what I thought was weird. You know what? I might as well do side tangent right now because I don't know what would be a better time to bring it up. The original game is hard to explain, especially the ending, because the way it's presented is as a time loop. But if it's a time loop, then what is that ending? Because the ending is like him destroying the ink demon and presumably like freeing it. But then he just goes back again. So he didn't actually win? Is that what it's trying to say? Like, I don't understand that. But my idea now that this game is coming out is that that is just a time loop. Like either he fails, or maybe it's that, destroying the ink demon doesn't work, so he has to restart. Whatever it is that causes this time loop to keep happening is its own thing. And then this unique story is going to be outside of that. Like it's going to be, that's a loop, but your interactions aren't normal. Like they don't match with the loop. So whatever you do, is whatever you're doing in this game is trying to break that loop and have like a final ending so that you have an actual end. That's why characters like Allison and Alice can appear, because you can interact with them outside of that loop while they can still fulfill their purpose in the original story. That might not make any sense, but that's the best I can describe it. This shot of like this town, it almost looks like a street, and it's got like a shop on a corner and there's like a car in the center, is interesting because I wonder, is this supposed to represent like the ink like, are we going to be outside of the studio? Is the ink like spreading so far to a point where it's actually gotten out of the studio and started to envelop things like around it, so that's why you can go, is this actually outside, or is this another weird thing like with the Bendy land and the toys shop, where it's just like the farther you go down, the bigger it gets. And somehow they've built an entire city underneath the studio, which doesn't make any sense. But like, it doesn't make any sense. But like, the whole premise is ridiculous anyway. So, I can probably suspend my disbelief enough to just respect the. I don't know. It's bizarre, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm intrigued by it. Here's the part, I'm going to slow it down, that really intrigued me. You can see her sitting on this little ledge up here, and there's a guy down there. And then she jumps, and there's like a weird warping effect around her as it's like a blink and you'll miss it. Hold on. See, so there's literally like this warp as she like shoots towards him, presumably to hit him or something. And if you remember from the original teaser, there was a whole point in that about her like having this weird mark on her hand that gave her some kind of power over the other ink monsters, where she's able to like absorb them or something, which gets me super excited because I know I was just talking about it, but I'm going to bring up BioShock again. Imagine if we actually get like a plasmid type power system where like there's a bunch of different powers you can use through the ink. I don't even know if plasmid, what would be a better comparison would be like Dishonored. Like the Dishonored like runes and the mark, like this ability where she's like zooming towards this guy would be like your blink equivalent basically. And like if we got a whole bunch of different powers just like that, oh, it would be so exciting. But that's what, as far as this little shot's concerned, it looks like we're going to have at least some level of power, which will add to that, like, excitement in the combat that I'm really looking for. So we can upgrade our tools, and we can actually, like, use powers. Like, oh, it's just already, it looks like so much more of a meatier game than the original. And I'm hyped. And then that little shot of the like normal Bendy, who's so small. He's so cute, which I think is great, because I always thought it was weird how like Boris and Alice, from their cartoon character versions to their like, I don't want to say real, but like, like their ink form versions, there's like a clear line there. Like I can see that connection. But especially when you look at it, like it was clear that like those were designed off each other. But when you read the archive things in the original game, it says that they designed the Ink Monster version of Bendy before they went back and designed like the cute normal cartoon version of him, which I thought was weird because that makes it like really difficult to make a like living ink version of him. He's so much smaller than Boris and Alice. He's just a very differently shaped kind of character. So giving him, like, obviously the monster version is like weirdly humanoid, but making like good Bendy, we'll say, more humanoid would just look wrong. So I'm glad that they just went with like, let's just make him totally tiny and cute and unrealistic. Like, he just looks really cute. I love how small he is. He just acts like a little child. I hope he's good. Like, it would be annoying, not annoying. I hope he's good, and I hope he's in a lot of the game. Like, it would suck if he doesn't show up until like right at the end. And this is one of those like, the trailer just showed the ending. But if he's like a companion through the whole game, I think that would be pretty sweet. And then that's it. Ending with that final reveal, November 15th. It wasn't the 14th, it was the 15th. It's unbelievable. 2 weeks. I'm so excited. Obviously, as I already said, I won't be able to play it right away because Xbox and PlayStation is coming soon, hopefully within the next year. Hopefully. I don't know if soon means like soon, like the next month, or if it's like well, we're going to wait until December, or if we're going to wait. Like, I don't really know what coming soon means, but I am exceedingly excited. And I think that's all I have to say. So, if you've somehow stuck with this, please let me know if you're excited for Bendy as much as I am. Like, comment, like, comic, like, comment, subscribe, do all those things that help make videos like this get seen better and good. Very good. Sorry, this has been kind of a ramble, but I'm just I'm so excited for this. I know I've said that like 70 times, but I can't get it off my mind. I needed to just like expel all my thoughts. So, if you made it till the end, thanks. If you gave up halfway, still thanks, because I appreciate that you at least clicked. And have a good rest of your day, bro chochos.